All right, let's dive in. Today, we are going to decode a really powerful tool that, honestly, organizes the journey of pretty much every product you've ever used. It's called the Supply Chain Operations Reference Model, or as everyone actually calls it, SCOR. Now, to really get why it's so important, let's start with a pretty simple question. I mean, really think about that for a second. The device you might be watching this on right now, it involved thousands of people, components from who knows how many countries, and this incredible logistical ballet of ships and planes and trucks all working together.
You know, for a company trying to manage all that, it's not a ballet. It's more like a massive sprawling maze. And trying to navigate a maze like that efficiently, that is incredibly difficult.
And that, right there, is the core challenge that every major company on the planet is wrestling with. How in the world do you manage all of this complexity without just completely getting lost?
Well, imagine if every department, every single supplier, and every shipping partner were all speaking different languages and using different maps. You'd get total chaos, right? And you felt that chaos. It looks like your package being delayed, or the thing you want being out of stock, or that nightmare return process. For companies, it just means burning money and, well, making customers unhappy. There's got to be a better way.
And you know what? There is. That better way is a universal framework, a kind of common language for supply chains, and it's called SCOR.
So what SCOR does is it basically provides a standardized dictionary and a rulebook. It lets completely different companies or even just different parts of the same company get on the same page. It lets them describe and measure what they're doing in the exact same way.
And look, this isn't some dusty, old framework nobody uses. Sure, it started back in '96, but it has been constantly evolving. The latest versions, they've been updated to tackle all the modern challenges you can think of. E-commerce, blockchain, and this massive digital transformation that's just sweeping through every single industry.
So the big question is, how does it actually work? Well, SCOR breaks down that whole crazy supply chain maze into just 6 core building blocks, or processes, that cover everything from the very beginning to the very end. And here they are: plan, source, make, deliver, return, and the one that holds it all together, enable. These 6 things cover every single activity, from guessing how many people want your product, all the way to handling a return and managing all the data behind it. Okay, to make this feel a little more real, let's actually trace the journey of a new smartphone using this exact framework. This is where it all stops being theory and starts becoming practice.
First up, you plan. You're forecasting how many phones you think you're going to sell. Then you source all the parts, the chips, the screens, the batteries. Next, you actually make the phones by assembling them in a factory. After that, you deliver them to warehouses and stores all over the world. Of course, you'll inevitably have to manage the return process for repairs or trade-ins. And watching over all of this is enable. That's the management of data, contracts, and all the risks that hold the entire chain together.
Now, just describing the process is one thing, but the real power of SCOR, the secret sauce, is its ability to actually measure performance and then, of course, drive improvement. So this is absolutely crucial. This is not just about drawing some boxes and arrows on a whiteboard. It's about attaching hard numbers to every single step. That's how companies can confidently promise things like next-day delivery, because they've measured exactly what it takes. It's all about seeing what's working, what's broken, and figuring out where you can get better. And SCOR does this by judging performance across 5 key areas. First, reliability. Are you actually delivering what you promised? Responsiveness. How fast can you do it? Agility. How well can you handle a curveball? Then, of course, costs. How efficiently are you running things? And finally, asset management. How well are you using everything you've got?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, it sounds great in theory, but how do you measure something as fuzzy as agility for a giant global company? Well, this is where the genius of the SCOR structure really starts to shine.
Check this out. SCOR is brilliant because it breaks measurement down into 3 different levels. So at level 1, you've got your big, high-level strategic goal, something like perfect order fulfillment. But to figure out why your score is what it is, you drill down to level 2 metrics, like say the percentage of your orders that were actually delivered on time. And if that number's low, you drill down again to level 3 to find the real root cause. Maybe it's the number of complaints about missing paperwork. See? You can connect a top-level business goal directly to a specific, totally fixable problem on the ground. It's so smart. Though let's talk about what actually happens when a company decides to go all in on this.
What are the real-world benefits? And yeah, the challenges too.
The benefits are, well, they're huge. When you standardize your process, you can finally benchmark yourself against the best in the business. You can drive real, continuous improvement and get a handle on your risks. But I think most importantly, you start making decisions based on data, not just guesswork. And that data-driven approach is exactly why the product you want is more likely to actually be in stock when you go to buy it.
SCOR also helps companies take a hard look at how they're actually working. I mean, are you still relying on old, declining practices that just create roadblocks? Are you just using standard methods that give you zero competitive edge? Or are you adopting proven best practices and maybe even exploring some high-reward emerging tech like AI-powered forecasting? The model gives you a way to have these really critical conversations.
But listen, it's not a magic bullet. Not at all. A successful rollout takes serious resources. We're talking time, money, and real expertise. It is completely dependent on having clean, available data. Garbage in, garbage out. And it is not a set-it-and-forget-it tool. It needs constant updates, and you'll probably have to tweak it for your company's own unique situation.
But you know that adaptability is exactly why SCOR is still so relevant. Right now, today, companies are using this very framework to figure out how to integrate artificial intelligence into their supply chains. They're using it to improve everything from forecasting demand to real-time logistics and quality control.
So if we're going to sum it all up, it's this. SCOR takes that chaotic, global maze that we started with and turns into a clear, measurable, and most importantly, an optimizable map. It gives everyone the common language and the yardsticks they need to navigate the world of modern commerce.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. With AI, autonomous trucks, and all sorts of global disruptions constantly reshaping our world, the real question isn't if we need a universal language for supply chains, it's what new words and what new rules it's going to need to learn next.